That was the first thing that I really learned about YouTube is what is the thing that I can do that the audience has to come to me for. Think of this a little bit as a crash course in how to be a YouTuber. Looking at the things that I made mistakes in, looking at the things that I learned can help you if you want to do this. For anyone who wants to start their own YouTube channel, what equipment would you suggest for beginners? First thing you need is a good mic. Good mic is more important than anything else. I use a Rode NT1. What's your inspiration for YouTube video creation? I think that, and this is true of any arts, I think that what you should do is you should look at the world and think about something that you would like to be different in the world. And through what you create, express that desire for that thing to be different. I have just reached 20,000 subscribers just a couple days ago. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has helped me get there. 20K feels like a very big achievement. This is the video that got me to 20K, Modern SpongeBob's worst idea yet. The home away from home critique. The video that got me to 10K would be ranking every time the Krusty Krab got destroyed. So that means that I was at 10K 4 months ago. So in 4 months, I got from 10K to 20K. And 10K was a big achievement, it was. But 20K feels real. You know, like 20K feels really real as a proper YouTuber. And also, I think a major difference between 10K and 20K is that back then when I got, so I've been a full-time YouTuber for, what's it, July as I record this? 8 months now. I have been a full-time YouTuber since December of 2025. Before that, I was a photographer. That was my main job. I was a youth theater photographer, and I actually lived in California, and I moved to the East Coast in December. And when I moved to the East Coast in December, my channel had been kind of popping off for a couple of months. We'll get to my full story in a bit. While I was kind of planning to get this other job, to start this other sort of career in addition to the YouTube was making me money at the time, but it wasn't like everything. I started to get to the point where I started to realize that, man, I think YouTube is my job now. Like it just started to kind of happen. So even though I have been doing YouTube full time for 8 months now, it's really only been since, so ranking every time the Krusty Krab got destroyed was in February of this year. So I think I decided probably around April that I was like, I'm not going to look for another, this is my job now. So it was probably around, I think it was Sneakers O'Toole. That was when I really made the choice, when I was really like, this is it. This is what I do now. It was probably only about 2 months ago that I really decided that this was going to be my only job. Now, how did I get here? Sometimes I ask myself that. How did I get here? And I suppose to really get to the beginning of my story, we have to go even further than the importance of the background fish in SpongeBob SquarePants, the first video on this channel. We have to go even further back. This video came out in November of 2024, but I've actually been doing YouTube for much longer. This is a tribute to Charles Martinet, Top 10 Mario Voice Lines. It is a video that I did in, I think, August or September of 2023. Back when Charles Martinet retired from being the voice of Mario. This was news back then. And it's on a channel called The Game Cubicle. Get it? Like GameCube. It was focused mostly on Nintendo. Pretty much entirely on Nintendo. I think no, I did some on SpongeBob games. That came a little later. And my first 2 videos that I actually deleted that were on this channel, one was about how Mario Kart should have a story mode, and the other was about the gambling in Pokemon and how they got rid of the gambling in Pokemon, which I did a little late. Yeah, this one I remade it, and then I eventually did the Mario Kart one too. But the first 2 were they were different ones. They just weren't very good. I was still learning the ropes. The audio was trash. That's the main reason I deleted them, was really because of the audio. Jackson Finelli Lost Media. It's truly lost. It actually is gone. Like I deleted them off YouTube. I don't have the hard drive anymore that had them. Like they actually are straight up gone. So I think maybe just for a little bit of fun, let's take a look at my first real YouTube video back in 2023. Top 10 Mario lines, a tribute to Charles Martinet. So already, we can already see a little bit of my attitude as a YouTuber. First of all, like the fact that I'm talking about Charles Martinet and I'm talking about voice acting in my very first video game focused video, I think already was a little bit of an indication of where I would eventually end up, talking about media mostly. You know, I was talking about a performance, talking about all this sort of stuff. And actually, the reason that I did top 10 Mario lines is that I was aware that I was a new YouTuber at this point. I literally had 0 subscribers. Like it was like maybe 5, and there were people I knew, like I literally had 0 subscribers because it was like the first video. I knew that other channels, other Nintendo channels had already covered that Charles Martinet was retiring from the voice of Mario. So I was like, all right, I can't just do a video that says Charles Martinet is retiring from voicing Mario because they're just going to watch the bigger people who already talked about it. So what can I do to stand out? That was the first thing that I really learned about YouTube is what is the thing that I can do that the audience has to come to me for? And that was why I landed on doing top 10 Mario voice lines. Now, even if we look at the thumbnail, it's not a bad thumbnail for sure, but like you can kind of see some cracks in it. The text isn't very readable. Like it's not like if you look at, even those are my older ones, but if you look at like my thumbnails, like the text is so readable, it's the black outlines and all that sort of stuff. In fact, funnily enough, this is actually a redone thumbnail. This was not the original thumbnail in this video. I used to use a different font that was very not as readable. I used a more like fun font that was way less readable. I don't remember which one it was, but it was like it looked all like curly or whatever, and it wasn't very good. Just the way it looks with like the Mario and Luigi in the corner, and like it's a good thumbnail in a lot of ways. Like it got a decent amount of views for the size of the channel at the time, so I think it had a lot going for it with the thumbnail, but it wasn't exactly what I understand now about thumbnails. Think of this a little bit as a crash course in how to be a YouTuber. Looking at the things that I made mistakes and looking at the things that I learned can help you, if you want to do this, not make the same mistakes or, kind of give yourself a head start. So let's see my real first video. Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, Luigi. My audio is just not as good. And I wasn't as good of a speaker back then. You can kind of hear it. I've always been a pretty solid speaker. Like I took voice and speech in college. As far as talking goes, I've always been very good at it. But when it came to YouTube presenting, I did have to find myself a bit. It's not the same as delivering a monologue like when I was in acting classes. And sometimes you might hear it in here. I almost approached it almost like an actor would, whereas now I approach presenting as a presenter would. And it's really something you can only learn by actually doing it. Nintendo said in a statement that Man, my audio was real bad then. My audio, this was recorded not on this mic. This was recorded in a closet back in my apartment when I used to live in Long Beach. And I didn't have a space to film. So that's why my stuff was faceless on the game cubicle for a while. I just didn't even have the space to film. We'll get to some of my first videos where I filmed my face, and it's because I moved to another apartment where I had space to film. And that was before I lived here. This was a whole spare bedroom. This is not even my bedroom. I have a separate room just for my studio and my office, as I call it. In this video, I'm going to rank in this video, I wouldn't call it an amateur YouTuber tell. Like, it's fine to say in this video. It's generally redundant. I think I even said in this video, my most recent one, I think what it is that if you're just starting out as a YouTuber, you should try to avoid saying in this video. And then once you really understand your content, you will find the times where you should say in this video. Like back then, I was saying in this video as a crutch, as a way of trying to be like, this is what the video is, guys. Whereas usually it's better to just write a punchy intro than say something like, in this video, I will this. And then once you understand that, you can decide, okay, now that I know how to write a punchy intro, I can now know when saying something like in this video is the best choice.
Top 10 favorite Mario voice lines. I'm only going to be focusing on Martinet's Mario.
This was terrible footage to choose right there. I think my logic was that Mario like going down the slide, but I didn't even realize that he's going through this little slide. Look at this.
10 favorite Mario voice lines.
Look, I'm getting dizzy.
I'm only going to be
like, why did I choose this footage? Another thing about video games that made some video game videos easier to make is that with video games, you didn't have to worry about how long the footage was going on for. Like, I could talk for a while with just footage going. Whereas with like a SpongeBob video, you don't want to do more than 6 seconds because you'll get copyrighted. At least that's my general rule. I don't go over 6 seconds and I've never had a problem with copyright. But with video game footage, sometimes I would just let it ride.
Focusing on Martinet's Mario voice clips, because if I opened it up to his other characters, then this would just become a Waluigi video. While these other characters have their own unique identities that have had their own impact on gaming,
I also didn't do a like specific intro. So generally how I would structure this is I'm getting into like the preamble. So what I would do in my videos now, if I were to restructure this video, what I would have done is I would have done the intro, and the intro would have been about 30 seconds. And then I would have done like a transition, and I would have said something like prologue, the rules. Like, you'll notice this if you watch my Krusty Krab video. I do the intro, and then I do a transition, and then I say the rules, and then I talk about the rules. So sometimes some videos need 2 intros. A video like this needs 2 intros because I need to actually do the intro, and then I need to explain how the ranking works. Like, I needed to say that I'm only ranking the Mario voices because people would be like, well, what about Waluigi? What about his other voices? So you had to make that clarification. And you also want to talk a little bit about it. Like, if you do a ranking video, you do generally want to say something about it before you get right into the ranking. It depends on the ranking, but in this particular one, I have stuff to say.
Especially Mario's brother, Luigi. For this video, I want to focus on how Martinet...
For this video, I said in this video, and then I said for this video, just like I would have known to not do that nowadays. This is kind of what I think even back then set me apart as a YouTuber, is what I say right here.
On how Martinet shaped Mario the character and Mario the series, and look back on how his voice improved the gaming experience.
So how his voice improved the gaming experience is what I think sets this video apart from a comparable video that would have been from another YouTuber. Like, if another YouTuber did top 10 Charles Martinet lines, it would generally just be, here are the voice lines that I liked. Whereas I set it up as, here's how they improved the gaming experience. So I'm not just ranking all of the voices that I liked. I'm saying, here's why it matters, what I'm talking about. I do this with the Krusty Krab video. I didn't just want to rank every time the Krusty Krab got destroyed based on what episodes I liked, because then it's just a ranking of episodes I liked. Instead, I actually talked about narrative deservedness. I used the subject to teach people something. And I was doing that all the way back then. And I think that's another thing that any up-and-coming YouTuber should try to find is, what is something that only really you have to offer? What is your unique perspective on the things that you're covering? Rather than it just being you talking about stuff that you personally like. Like, you can do that, sure, but I don't think it's as remarkable, as really sharing what it is about you. Okay, so that was the first video I ever did. So that was in about September of 2023. So my next video was on, and we're not going to watch every video I did. Really, we're only going to watch really a handful of them. I don't think we're going to watch any more of the gaming ones. I just don't think that would be as interesting. I mean, if you're interested, like the Game Cubicle, you can still go subscribe to it. I'm probably not going to post. I don't know if I'll ever post to it again, or if it's a dead channel. I don't really know. It's not, I'm not really into doing gaming content anymore. I think it's not really worth my time as much. We'll talk about it in a bit. We'll get more into why I've kind of moved away from it. But anyway, my next video was on the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct, because this was right when Super Mario Bros. Wonder was about to come out. So that was me trying to get in on news. I was trying to cover news, and it got 3,000 views, which was a lot for me back then. And this is around the amount of views it got back then. Like, this isn't like this one. I would say Charles Martinet, like in its time, in like its like month and a half of like in the first like month and a half of this video being out, I would say this probably got like 4,000 views. and the other up to the 8.4K came from just it being around for a while. Whereas this one, because this was a news video, like this video had longevity, like it started to get like a couple more as it moved on. But like this one is like, why would you watch me reporting and speculating on what's going to be in Super Mario Bros. Wonder all these years later? The game's out now. But this was me trying to cover like news, trying to cover video game news. So this would kind of end up being why I would stop doing gaming content, is to do a video like this covering the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct, or covering any Nintendo Direct. This is kind of a gaming thing. Started to realize was that gaming was so oversaturated, and gaming has so many big channels, like, you know, your Game Explains, your Arlo's, your, you know, like these are like big, like people who cover like Nintendo news. These people are on it. That's like what they do, is they cover the gaming news. So if I was to be the type of person who would cover every Nintendo Direct, there's a couple of prerequisites that I really didn't meet. First of all, doing like other videos, like let's say this one is just about like a Pokemon thing. There's like a criticism I had of Pokemon Emerald, and that's what this video is. And that was something I was passionate about. But like if you're covering the Nintendo news, you probably could go back and talk about old games too, talk about retro games, but I don't know if they're particularly the same. So I went on a little bit more in the early days of the channel, kind of in the fall and winter Christmassy time of 2023. I made a lot of videos about like whatever's the recent Nintendo news. Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out at around that time. I talked a bit about Pokemon, like retro Pokemon, like this was on Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. This was on Pokemon Emerald. What's in store for Nintendo Switch 2 in the fall of 2023? That one didn't do too well. I remember that one kind of bombed compared to some of the other ones that were coming out around that time. But that's kind of funny because the Switch 2, back then we thought the Switch 2 was going to come out the next year, and because this was 2023. If only I knew it wasn't going to come out till 2025 back then, which is now a year ago now. But anyway, I started to move forward, and I was generally averaging about 1,000 to 2,000 views when I made these videos. That was my like average when I started. That was my average, and like there were lows, you know, there like this one with the ghosts and Luigi. The Mario Wonder review was like pretty low, like for the amount of work I put into this one. And again, it's a Mario Wonder review. All of the big channels, they did their Mario Wonder review. I had to think about that back then. In November, when I did my Mario Wonder review, I had to be like, well, how could I compete with these larger things? How did I make this any different if I just called it Mario Wonder review? So I kind of went along and I chugged along, and 1,000 views felt like a success. 3,000 views felt like a big success. That was my feelings back then. This was before I was monetized. This was when this was pretty much a hobby. You know, I always intended for YouTube to be a career aspiration, even all the way back then when I was only getting like 1,000 to 3,000 views. This was not like, it was a hobby, but I was intending for it to eventually become something. I just understood that it would take a long time. So like the fact that it wasn't making money at that time was not like devastating, because I knew that that kind of thing would take a while. I actually thought it would take longer than it actually did. It actually happened faster than I would have expected. But I just I chugged along with 1,000 views. 3,000 was good to me back then. And the reason that I felt like 3,000 was good is because when I got 3,000 views on a video, it had like a good amount of comments to engage with. You know, usually if it got like something like under 500, there weren't really going to be there wasn't any discussion. I didn't feel like I was stoking any sort of discussion. A 3,000 view video, which is more like where this was at the time. It didn't have 7,000 back then. This didn't have 10K back then. These were like 3,000. I think this was 2,000. There were things like, I felt like I was engaging in a discussion, and that felt fulfilling to me. And that was kind of what I was clinging to for a while. And then I got, all of a sudden, after just averaging 1,000 to 3,000 views, all of a sudden, I did this one video on why was the luxury ball so rare in Pokemon Emerald. And just blew up. It just, I couldn't believe it. This was back in March of 2024. And I did this video and I had this idea where, if you don't really know Pokemon, I'll try to like explain it in a way, you know, don't really have to know Pokemon, but like basically there's a Pokeball and it's like really hard to get. And I always thought it was weird that it was really hard to get, but it was only hard to get in these couple of games. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but anyway, I had this idea for a video about an item in a video game that was really rare and how it was weird, but there was something that I felt was missing from it. And what I decided to do is I decided to end the video with a challenge. The challenge was to get this rare item and to catch this Pokemon is named Rayquaza. And it's black and yellow and red, which is the same color as the Pokeball. They have color coordination. But to have this Pokemon is usually green. And to have it be black, it's like a 1 in 8,000 chance. So it just was this thing where it was a rare item and a rare thing and putting them together. Because as you know, in Pokemon, you catch the Pokemon in the Pokeball. It's the whole thing. And it just worked. And I got these high views. And this is the video that got this channel monetized. It got it past 1,000 subscribers and it got it past 4,000 watch hours. That's how you get monetized on YouTube. That did not turn YouTube into my job. Was far from it. I probably made less than $100 a month after that, or around $100 a month, because you actually don't get paid unless you make over $100 a month. So there would be some months where like I wouldn't even get a payout because I didn't go over the 100. I think that happened a few times, but generally after this, I would say I generally got like $100 a month from YouTube. That was like nothing. I think I made a joke where I was like, YouTube paid for my car registration of that year. Like that was about it. Not enough for it to be your job. As crazy as it is, I remember the feeling of this video blowing up, of it getting these view counts that I today am just used to. Like I just get views of that even more, you know, like I just am, you know, I mean, this is still a high amount of views for even my channel, for even any channel. Like over 100K is generally very good. But yeah, that was like how it really got started. And then from there, I would say after this, the general disappointment after this video came out and it did so well wasn't so much that every video after it didn't get 100K views, because I expected that. I expected that 100K views was not going to be every single video, but it was that sometimes I would still get under 1,000. That was very discouraging. That like, you know, after 100K, it didn't bring me into a new threshold. And I think that is something to learn if you ever do this, is that getting one video that blows up does not mean that every video after that is going to. So I covered at this time Mario and Pokemon. And I remember really thinking about that. Like should I cover only Mario and Pokemon? Or should I even cover both? Should I only be a Pokemon channel? Should I only be a Mario channel? That was also very difficult for me, because I felt like when I did a Pokemon video and a bunch of people subscribed for this Pokemon video, the very next video is a Mario Party video. The people who subscribed for Pokemon didn't watch it. So that's another thing that I was mulling over, is that I was going back and forth between Mario and Pokemon. And I was really only doing Mario and Pokemon. Those were like the only ones that I did. I wasn't really that interested in other video games. We'll get to some that are other video games, but yeah. So from there, basically, this was around the summer of 2024. Summer to the fall of 2024. Basically, how that worked for me was I would average about 1,000 to 3,000 views. I'd say my average was about 3,000 at this point. And every so often I get one that went over 10K. I never got another one that got, well, not never, but I wasn't getting other ones that got 100K. I don't think even 50K. I think it was like 10,000 was usually like great. And I kept going, and, you know, news would happen. And Pokemon TCG Pocket came around that time. Switch 2 leak. Let's see. Reveal of Mario Party Jamboree was some other stuff that would happen around then. So I was balancing it with news, new games coming out, and it just was a bit hard to control. There was just a lot of different things that were going on with gaming, and I was really struggling to find my way into it. So at around this time in 2024, how Super Sponge for GBA fails miserably. This was in November of 2024. And this video coincides with this video. They came out on the same day, actually. I wanted this video to advertise this channel and this video. I wanted to use the Game Cubicle, which at the time had, I want to say, 2,000 subscribers, to advertise this channel that had no subscribers because it was a new channel. And there were a couple of reasons why I started talking about media on a separate channel. I always wanted to do discussions of movies and TV shows. It was always a thing that I cared a lot about, but I decided to do media analysis on a separate channel. And the reason for that is that I was already struggling with, do I talk about Mario? Do I talk about Pokemon? And do I talk about news? Do I talk about new games that are coming out? Do I discuss old games? You know, like I just didn't have that kind of focus. There was just a lot that was going on with the Nintendo channel, and I just was really struggling to choose a specific thing to discuss. And I felt like all of it was kind of a losing game. So with all of that, I didn't want to add, now I talk about movies and TV shows on this channel. That would be insane, especially because it's called The Game Cubicle. It was clearly a gaming focused channel. So there just was not an avenue for it. So I decided to do a second channel. This was my second channel. This is now not a second channel. This is a main channel if there ever was one. But I decided to keep them separate as channels. So I kept kind of pittering along with video game videos, but I started to notice when I did my very first SpongeBob video, which was the importance of the background fish, that it did very well for a first video. It did better than most videos on the Game Cubicle. That was kind of crazy for me. That was a crazy realization that with this video on SpongeBob, there was actually so much more potential. I got so much more viewership. And the reason for that is really just because there's fewer people talking about movies and TV shows than there is about gaming. These gaming channels, these big channels, they are just so industrialized to make their news videos. And they're not bad channels. Like it's not like what I say about, you know, these content farms or anything. I wouldn't call them content farms. They're just channels that have a lot of people ready to report on the news. And something like my little grassroots, the importance of the background fish and SpongeBob SquarePants, is just something that big operations just weren't really making. Another thing that I think made this video blow up is that it was more, or not even more, but it was different from other comparable SpongeBob videos because of the way that it discussed story. Because of the way, so this video was about how the background fish and SpongeBob are used in the story of episodes. It's really an analysis of how background characters are used in media. It just used SpongeBob to have that discussion. And this is not the same as a video that was kind of the inspiration, B-Tan's ranking every SpongeBob incidental fish. This was a little bit, I would say this was a little bit inspired by B-Tan's video. Obviously, it's not the same. I'm not ranking every fish. But this video did make me think about, first of all, that the concept of discussing SpongeBob background fish is popular, that it's like a thing that people care about. That was what kind of made me choose that subject. And that's okay if you do that, by the way. If you want to be a YouTuber and you see that other subjects are popular and you want to talk about that subject too, that's fine, as long as you're not like fully like just taking someone else's video. But I think another thing that mine did differently is that I had that emphasis on story. So from here, I was kind of going parallel with the Game Cubicle. Game Cubicle was posting, Jackson Finelli was posting. This channel, Jackson Finelli, which wasn't called Jackson Finelli, by the way, when it started. The original name of the channel was called Stories Are Meaningful, was the original name of this channel for like its first, I want to say 1,500 subscribers. Like it wasn't like that was the name of the channel, it changed in 2 days. Like, in fact, I think I'll see when I changed it. I had it as a post. Name change announcement just says 1 year ago. Wait, why does it not say what? Wait, it doesn't say when? That's got to say when. Wait, I can't see when a post was actually posted? Am I crazy? It just says 1 year ago. But anyway, name change announcement. 1 year ago. I don't know. It's more than a year ago. I just don't know. I don't know why it's not giving me the actual date that it was. I want to say that I changed the name. I want to say that it was the giant chicken in Family Guy. I'm pretty sure that was when I changed the name. It might have been the Panty Raid. But look, that's a good amount of videos and the channel getting monetized happening with a different name. Now, why was it called Stories Are Meaningful? It kind of was like there's one YouTube channel. It's called like Just Write, like it's like a writing channel. I kind of wanted that sort of name. And I also kind of wanted the name of the channel to be a statement, like stories are meaningful. Like the point of my channel is that stories are not just mindless entertainment, that stories and TV shows have a social function, the social function of the arts, something I talk about a lot. It's kind of a controversial thing, apparently. It shouldn't be controversial, and there is no argument against it, but like the importance of stories is a part of my channel. So I thought that having the name of the channel be that would help give that statement across. And I ended up changing it for two reasons. One, I thought that it wasn't an amazing name. Like I thought it didn't function very well as a name. I just kept seeing it like in being like used in a sentence. Like I would see something like, hey, stories are meaningful. This, and it just did not read to me. It just like did not feel like it read as a professional name. And also I wanted the channel name to be my name. I think it's just good branding for the channel name to just be my name. And that was really the main reason why I ended up changing it. The video that I think not even so much put this channel on the map, but the video that really changed me as a YouTuber is a critical look at Nosferatu and SpongeBob SquarePants. This video is a keystone of where I am today. And so a little bit of the story of how this channel started. We had the importance of the background fish in SpongeBob SquarePants. So the first video was a SpongeBob video. This channel was never intended and is still not intended to be a SpongeBob only channel. SpongeBob is just by far the most popular thing I cover and the topic that is the most broad. There is so much to talk about with SpongeBob. SpongeBob is like the best show to cover, not just because of its popularity, but because there is so much that SpongeBob does with storytelling. And also SpongeBob has a range of quality. There's really good episodes in the first seasons. There's really bad episodes in the middle, and there's some bad episodes recently. There's also some okay episodes that are more recent and in the middle. Like there's a lot of range. You'll notice a lot of my SpongeBob videos are talking about a bad modern episode comparing it to a good classic episode. Hence, a critical look at Nosferatu and SpongeBob SquarePants, the first video where I actually really did that. But I wanted to talk about other stuff. Pokemon. My second video was Pokemon because I wanted to tie it in with gaming, with the Pokemon videos, because I did a lot of Pokemon stuff. Pokemon video. There's a Pokemon video right there. There's a Pokemon video. Like I did Pokemon videos, so I thought talking about Pokemon the show would have been a good one. And I think I did like 3 videos on the Pokemon anime. And then my third video is actually on Better Call Saul, and I don't really cover like dramas right now. So, like Breaking Bad, Sopranos, Game of Thrones. These are shows that I love, and I really have not talked about them on the channel because I just think they have a different audience when it comes with like most of this like animation stuff. And then I did an Avatar video, an analysis of Avatar, and then we got to Nosferatu. And Nosferatu was the second SpongeBob video I did. Nosferatu really changed everything. I don't know why Nosferatu was the one that I did so early. I don't know why of all of the references, Nosferatu was the one that stuck out to me. Because the next one was My Leg. I've done plenty of others on reference episodes. What are some other reference episode ones I did? Doodle Bob. Like Doodle Bob was when the new episode aired last year. I've done Doodle Bob. I've done Bubble Buddy. Should be Imagination Box. Let's see. Bubble Buddy's right here. Like I did a lot on the reference episodes. I think I've covered every reference episode. At least every reference episode so far. I don't know if there's any I missed. I guess I didn't do Rock Bottom, unless you count SpongeBob and Patrick's Timeline Twist Up as a Rock Bottom. That's not the only Rock Bottom episode. But Nosferatu, I don't know why Nosferatu was like the one. Funnily enough, this was actually around the time that Nosferatu movie came out, and people would comment that, but I actually wasn't. I didn't even know. It's total coincidence that this was around the Nosferatu movie. I would have mentioned it in the video if I knew that the Nosferatu movie was like coming out at that time. I think I'd heard of it, but I just was not even considering that. Nosferatu, I remember writing the Nosferatu video and realizing that this was different from my gaming stuff, that there was something different about doing media analysis as opposed to gaming analysis. And that difference has to do with talking about the importance of the arts, and by the arts I mean narrative media. Video games are art, obviously, but the art of narrative media, and the importance of narrative media, and how narrative media is being kind of bastardized to waste people's time in a way that doesn't really affect video games. I think that video games, you can criticize video games, especially mobile games. Mobile games is one, but you can have some criticisms of video games. You know, this SpongeBob game will waste your time. Talking about like cutting characters in Super Smash Bros. Hey, maybe there's too many characters in Super Smash Bros. The next game should cut them. Like, there are criticisms you can make of video games, sure. But I don't think I've ever criticized at least a Nintendo game. Maybe like really bad Nintendo games like Paper Mario Sticker Star might be one, but there's like very few Nintendo games where I'd be like, this is a product where its bad quality is a social problem. I don't think I've ever said that about video games. I do say that about narrative media, and I think that gives me a little bit more to talk about with that. So the way that the Nosferatu video was structured is it's pretty easy. I explain why the Nosferatu joke was funny. There I was back in my, that's my old background with my very long hair. I mean, my hair's kind of long right now. Even though Squidward admits to making up the story, he and SpongeBob begin to fear that this hash-slinging slasher may So like, yeah, you hear my announcer voice still. I still hadn't really perfected the voice. It's a little bit better than the Charles Martinet one that we heard not too long ago. I definitely have improved even a bit more. I'm more conversational now in my videos. So yeah, the way that this video was structured is I went over the original Nosferatu joke. I talked about Squidferatu. Well, I did a little brief interlude where I talked about other Nosferatu appearances, but then I really talked about Squidferatu and how Squidferatu failed and Nosferatu did good. It's a good video. Go watch it. But then at the end, I finished off with this. I think that this last part here is what kind of turned this video into something more. I don't know if it made a difference in the viewership. After all, it's only like the last 2 minutes of the video. So I don't know if it's the reason that it got the amount of views that it did that got this channel monetized and put me on the map. But I think that this section is important because it really did change how I approached being a YouTuber, and the kind of points that I wanted to make as a YouTuber would be this last section of this video. Should the SpongeBob writers have done with Nosferatu? Chapter 3, Let It Rest. Chapter 3, Let It Rest. This was before I discovered that I could use the actual SpongeBob font. I just used the same like general color. There's a trend I see a lot in storytelling, both new and old, that makes me think they should have just let it rest. In Graveyard. So I came up with this phrase, let it rest. I made up that phrase. I think it's a cool phrase. I kind of, I've seen people use it too. Like I've seen in comments, I've seen people say they should let it rest. Like I've kind of, like I haven't seen it like used that often, you know, like in, like if I saw it used in like bigger things too, like if it just became a common term, that'd be super cool. But like I've seen people say it back at me. Nosferatu was a fantastically executed joke and the cherry on top of a well-done episode. The team behind SpongeBob was certainly aware that this aspect of their creation really resonated with audiences. But there's something that they didn't understand or accept, and it was that this joke could only work once. It could only work here, in this moment, in this episode. The stars aligned, and Nosferatu appeared in the center, and you could never force this to happen again. You can crowbar Nosferatu. So I took the whole video that was just me at first criticizing episodes, talking about how it worked, it didn't work. This works, this doesn't. This was also the first this works, this doesn't thumbnail, funnily enough. But then I turned it into a more philosophical ending, a real punch to it. And I felt so much more towards making this video than I did with a lot of my gaming videos. So from there, I kept going on. I started to notice that SpongeBob videos did better. Now you'll notice that the SpongeBob videos have way more views than the videos next to them. Like, for example, My Leg has 78K views, whereas this live action Lion King movie video only has 1.2K views. Now, at the time, the My Leg video still did a lot better than the live action Lion King video. Like, it still did better because it was a SpongeBob video, but it didn't do better by that much. I would say the My Leg video, the Nosferatu video, was definitely past 100K. Like, it got 100K in like a couple of weeks, I'd say, because it got me monetized. I'd say My Leg got 20K in a couple of weeks, and this 78K came later when the channel started to blow up. Like, when the channel started really blowing up, people went back and watched the SpongeBob videos, but didn't really watch the other videos around it. But anyway, as I went through, I did a SpongeBob video every so often. They would usually sometimes do a little better than others. And I just kept moving forward. And this would have been around the summer of 2025, around June-ish of 2025. And this was when I was probably feeling the most discouraged as a YouTuber. This was probably the darkest time as a YouTuber for me. The time where I was really concerned that this was never going to get anywhere was probably around, summer of 2025. And you might be thinking, that's weird. You know, like both of the channels were monetized. Game Cubicle and Jackson Finale were monetized. Didn't make a lot of money off of them, but they were both monetized. They both averaged, 1,000 views to 3,000 views. Somewhere under 1,000 on this. This channel was doing worse than the Game Cubicle. The Game Cubicle averaged higher than Jackson Finale at this time. So this one was like doing a bit worse. But at this time, I was really getting concerned about where I was going and if this was ever going to be more than a hobby. Because, you should treat it as a hobby in some ways when you're just starting out and you're not making money. Because again, I had other jobs at the time. There is a point where you just can't put that much time into making videos if they're not making money. There is a point where that matters. Like, I think it's toxic positivity for someone to be like, it doesn't matter if I get views. It does. It does. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that it matters. And the reason that it matters is because if you get views, you can do it for a living. Like, the material reality is that if you don't get views on your videos, first of all, what's even the point of making them? And secondly, you don't get paid for it. So you have to have another job, which takes away from your time to be able to make videos in the first place. So it is important to care about that stuff. I'm not saying that it should be the be all end all and you should be sponge truths and you don't care about your audience and you just do whatever makes you the most views or makes you the most money. There's a balance to it. There always is a balance to everything. But like, if you're doing videos and you're like not getting a lot of viewership and you're getting like, if you're getting only like 1,000 to 3,000, you might be fine. It might just be a matter of time before you blow up. Because like, I didn't change too much before I really started to blow up around September of 2025. I didn't really change that much of what I was doing. I just had to be patient. But if you're getting under 1,000 every video, you're doing something wrong. You gotta change it up. It's not eventually going to blow up. You are doing something fundamentally wrong. And you need to figure it out because it will not go anywhere. But anyway, at around this time in summer of 2025, I was doing both the Game Cubicle and Jackson Finale. That was very difficult to do both of those. And funnily enough, what gave me more hope in being a YouTuber was actually the Game Cubicle, was actually the gaming videos with I Solved the Donkey Kong Bonanza timeline. This was around when Donkey Kong Bonanza was coming out and it had a bunch of weird timeline stuff. This video kind of restored my confidence in YouTube just at this time, seeing something work. And actually around this time, this was around July, August of 2025, I kept making gaming videos. This channel went on a hiatus for about a month after Should They Make an American Squid Game? Again, when I covered a drama, just was a little outside of my audience, you know. I really liked Squid Game. I wanted to do a video on like all of Squid Game because I was really into it, but I just didn't think it was going to do very well. So I took about a month off from this media analysis channel, and I kept doing the Game Cubicle, and I noticed that the Game Cubicle was still not super fulfilling. It wasn't giving me what I really wanted, even though I had one really solid video. And again, it was always the same problem with the Game Cubicle. Do I talk about the news? Do I talk about old games? Do I talk about new games? Like what? And it just wasn't, I was always having the same problems with the Game Cubicle, with the being a gaming YouTuber. And also the fact that I was also doing movies and TV shows. If I wanted to be a gaming YouTuber, I think I could have been a really good one. I do. I think that I could have been like Arlo, like all of these, you know, I think I could have run a Game Explain. I think I could have been really good at it, but I would have had to commit. I would have had to not do this. I would have had to just do this. And then I would have committed and I would have really been a gaming YouTuber. It really did come to the point where I knew that I had to pick one. But at this point, I was not picking one. I was doing both. But one thing that I did realize, that I had been realizing, is that with this, what I learned from the Game Cubicle is like right around here, Donkey Kong was big because of Donkey Kong Bonanza. So there's a bit of Donkey Kong Bonanza stuff. There's a Pokemon, you know, even Kirby Air Ride, you know, like SpongeBob games. I want to talk about SpongeBob games too at around this time. Amiibo, Mario. And I was noticing, and I had noticed for a while, what if I just did Pokemon? What if I just did Mario? Would that be better if I just focused on one thing? And I just couldn't find an avenue to really do that on this gaming channel. On this channel, the best videos by far were the SpongeBob videos. So what if, when I came back from this hiatus, this was around August of 2025, when I came back from this about a month-long hiatus on this channel, what if I came back and I just did SpongeBob videos? And I saw if that could make this work as a career. And that was like the last ditch. It's like, look, I'm not going to be able to do this unless something really changes. So I'd rather just cover SpongeBob than cover anything I want and have no one see it. That was the choice that I was presented with. I felt like that was mutually exclusive. Was it? Who knows? Maybe if I stuck to my guns and I covered a bunch of different stuff, maybe I would have been fine. I don't know. That's not the choice I made. The choice I made was I'm going to cover only SpongeBob until I get to a point where I feel like I don't have to. And there were parts of that decision that I liked. I like SpongeBob. Covering SpongeBob is great. It's my favorite cartoon. It is. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with it. It has, you know, all that stuff I said earlier about why SpongeBob is such a slam dunk of a show to cover. And my formula was going to be this. So you'll see rewriting the Splinter. Can I fix SpongeBob's grossest episode, rewriting the Splinter? Next video, how to write Dying for Pie. The video after, the wasted potential of Handsome Squidward. Originally, this video actually had almost the same thumbnail as this video, the Splinter. It was originally the same thing. It was SpongeBob with the pencil. It said rewriting, but it was just the title card of the two faces of Squidward, or the many faces of Squidward, whatever the episode is called. I think I called it the wrong name. I eventually changed the thumbnail later because I did thumbnail tests and this thumbnail just performed better. But originally, my plan was I am just going to do two kinds of videos. I'm going to do criticizing a bad episode and praising good episodes. And that was going to be my formula for SpongeBob. And I was going to do back and forth. I was going to do bad episode rewrite, good episode how to write, back and forth, back and forth. And I did 3. And then I realized SpongeBob season 16 was airing. SpongeBob season 16 was about to air its season premiere. Bizarro Bottom. I scrolled past on Reddit. I saw this screenshot, actually, the very screenshot that I eventually used for the thumbnail. That is to this day my most viewed video currently. Is Bizarro Bottom is my most viewed video. And I think the reason for it is just because the thumbnail has a weird looking SpongeBob and a blue Mr. Krabs. And I think as much as and I'm sure the quality of the video contributed to it. I'm sure it had a good discussion. I'm sure like there are things about me that it wasn't all that, but let's be real. That was a big part of it, is that is just a thing that caught people's attention, that these characters look off. This was actually originally one of the thumbnails was also a rewriting. It was rewriting Bizarro Bottom, was in the thumbnail test. And this thumbnail won by a long shot. This one with the "this didn't work." My first "this didn't work" thumbnail, I'm pretty sure. And then from there, more SpongeBob videos. I covered season 16 as it aired. This was the next season 16 episode. Season 16 episode, that one was also season 16. I tried to cover the SpongeBob movie. I did a couple throwback things. This was season 16 video. Season 16, the Halloween episode, Laundra Madness. Imagination Box remake, Imagination Box sequel was actually not a season 16 episode, but it was a modern episode. It was pretty close. From Bizarro Bottom onward, YouTube was still not my job. I was still a photographer at this time, but YouTube was a part-time job at that point. It became something. It became more than what it was before. It became more than a hobby, definitely, but it wasn't my full-time job. And then I decided to talk about AI. And I was thinking about covering AI for a while. I'm not afraid of AI SpongeBob channels. 8 months ago, wow, November of 2025 was I'm not afraid of AI SpongeBob channels. Inspired by Ava's videos about a similar subject. The reason I made this video is because I love Ava's anti-AI videos. I do. But I wanted to basically do an anti-AI video where I stated that I wanted AI to be banned. I feel like Ava doesn't say that. And I get why he doesn't. I get that's a hard thing to say because you really have to back that up with strong arguments, which is not easy to do. But I felt like that was something that was missing from Ava's anti-AI videos. So I wanted to throw my hat in the ring. And I remember when I was making this video, this I'm not afraid of AI SpongeBob channels, I was looking at what channel was I going to cover? What AI channel was I going to cover? Originally, this video was going to be about No Villains Are Safe. Actually, No Villains Are Safe was going to be the subject of this video, not Sponge Truths. I was aware of Sponge Truths, but I was originally going to talk about No Villains Are Safe because No Villains Are Safe had more subscribers, and No Villains Are Safe, I hated their thumbnails more. So they were originally going to be the subject. But I actually didn't have as much to say about No Villains Are Safe, and I didn't have as much evidence of them being AI at the time. Now I do. But I didn't have as much evidence of them being AI beyond just the vibes, whereas Sponge Truths at this time, Ava had done videos on them and presented evidence for them being AI, which I discussed in this video, and I said that Ava had the evidence, and I told people to watch Ava's video on it. I credited him as the source. But the real reason that I covered Sponge Truths in this video was because Sponge Truths copied one of my videos. It's surreal how similar Sponge Truths' Bizarro Bottom video is of my, again, most popular video. Bizarro Bottom is a mess of a SpongeBob episode. But this video is not the same as my usual Sponge Truths videos. You'll notice here Sponge Truths is getting desperate from just 6 days ago. 10 hours of destroying Sponge Truths to fall asleep to. That's a compilation of a lot of them. Sponge Truths is finished. Don't learn politics from AI SpongeBob videos. Sponge Truths is homophobic, like so many, I have covered so much Sponge Truths, but this video is different because this video is on the main channel. We'll talk about the podcast channel in a bit and how that became a part of my career. So this video is a little different. I'm not afraid of AI SpongeBob channels because it's written like a regular main channel video. It just discusses Sponge Truths and all that. But we'll get to how AI plays into my career, or me criticizing AI, because I certainly don't use AI. I hate AI. Came into my career. Let's see. I tried to talk about the Mario Galaxy movie. The trailer did not do as well as my comparable videos around it, as you'll notice. Under 10K. Everything else, well over 10K. Well over 20K. All of them. This one. I guess I could talk a little bit about when I did videos that were a bit more political. This one was also political. Again, I talked about policy of how I think AI should be banned. My AI SpongeBob channel video was a bit political. This was the first time I really was political, at least I think. I think I said something in the Squid Game one because it took place in America. So it might not have been the very first time that I was political, but it was the first time I was like really explicitly political. This one as well, the religion one, I talked about certain very hot button issues. So sometimes when I do those, they don't do as well on the main channel, whereas they do well on the podcast channel. That's interesting. I think it's just because this live stream content, people are more willing to hear about like politics and stuff, whereas with these, people generally don't want to really think about that sort of stuff. They'd rather just think about SpongeBob. I don't know if that's a problem. I don't know if that's a bad attitude. It's just something I've noticed. I won't never talk about politics on this channel. I don't shy away from sharing my beliefs. I don't shy away from sticking up for marginalized groups. And also talking about politics, it's exhausting for me too. I'm very informed, but it's not my main area of expertise. Like when it comes to like, really, I even talked a little bit in this one not too long ago. There was a lot I talked about that was like economic policy that was like really at the edge of my understanding for it. Not to say that I don't know these things and not to say that I'm not confident in the things I said in this video. I certainly am. But like I know about the arts. Like if it's about a SpongeBob episode and its structure and all this sort of stuff, I can tell you anything backwards and forwards, and I enjoy it more. I would not be happy if I was a politics channel. It would not make me happy. Doing this makes me happy. So, and sometimes the thing comes up. Animal Farm, not too long ago. Animal Farm movie doesn't understand politics. I was passionate about that, and again, didn't do as well as the ones around it. It's interesting. I mean, from there, really, the rest is history. This is around January of 2026 is around here. The views just kept going up. The average views started going up. The subscribers started going up. Got to 10K at ranking every time the Krusty Krab destroyed. And that brings us to today. Modern SpongeBob's worst idea yet got us 20K. Jackson Finelli Podcast, to give a little bit of backstory on this. This is probably where you're watching this on. Jackson Finelli Podcast got 2K subscribers not too long ago. It's a newer channel, and it's always going to average a little bit less because they're long form, off the cuff, unscripted content. It's not going to get the same kind of numbers as my video essays, but I can put out a lot more of it, and they're longer videos. So this has been a very good channel for me. This has been a very good also good part of my job. This channel is also monetized. I got all of that squared away. Probably back in April, this channel got monetized. It's a bit new. This one, what really started to pop off on this channel, you'll notice I did a lot of video game streaming to kind of tie this back into video games. This actually was originally, this channel, this is Jackson Valley Podcast, was originally going to be my video game streaming channel. And I just never really was able to make it work. Video game streaming is hard. I'm trying it a little bit right now, you'll notice, and they haven't done very well in, relation to my other ones, my other Sponge Truths criticizing ones. But like this is me and Em, my fiance Em is in them too. We're playing it together. Playing some of the old SpongeBob games. I don't know. People like them. People do say that they like them. They certainly are not as popular as the other ones. I might continue to do these. Creature from the Krusty Krab. Maybe I just play all the SpongeBob games and that can be my contribution to gaming. But really what worked for me is criticizing the AI channels. And from there, the Game Cubicle last video was 3 months ago. Some Pokemon stuff. Only got 2K views the last video. I got 30K right at the end. I had a very strong one. I had a couple that were looking good, but I decided to let it go. The Game Cubicle. I don't know if I'll make gaming content. To be honest, it's not really that sad. I didn't love it as much as what I do now. I just don't think making these videos about video games, about Nintendo games, I don't think it was meant to really fit into my life. Maybe I'll do videos like these, like the SpongeBob game reviews, and I'll just put them on the main channel. I have been hesitant to do that because I feel like if I do that, that's really the end of the Game Cubicle. Like that would be a big gesture against the existence of this channel if I did SpongeBob game videos on this channel. So I don't know. I'm going to think about that. But for now, I might play some video games on this streaming channel. But the main things that I do these days, I've settled into a pretty solid routine to look a little bit into the future as we go past 20K subscribers, hopefully to 100K soon. My plans as of right now is to keep covering the new season of SpongeBob season 17, as it airs. I'm trying to do some non-SpongeBob videos. We're getting to the point where I don't have to only cover SpongeBob. I did well on live action Avatar. I've done very well with Family Guy. Got a couple ideas coming up that aren't necessarily SpongeBob videos coming up. Still going to be a lot of SpongeBob. As the channel gets going, something that I think could really be the future of this channel is mega videos. So I watched Camp Coral would be the first, a 2-hour analysis of an entire show. Discussing entire shows, similar to like Quentin reviews, I think is something that will eventually be in the future of this channel. But beyond that, yeah, I'm doing this. And then we got our content farm stuff. Discussing content farms will also continue to be a big part of the channel. And definitely criticizing AI will be a big part of the podcast channel. And yeah, that's just about it. That's just about my story as a YouTuber. That is how I got myself this far in this amount of time. Anyone have any questions? Questions from the class. I did discover you via your gaming content, specifically your Curse the Flying Dutchman GBA video. Yeah, I wonder how many fans are from the Game Cubicle. Because there's you, but like it's not zero. Like I'm sure that there's a decent amount. Game Cubicle had 5K subscribers at the end. So like it wasn't nothing, you know? What do you like about writing? I like the sharing of perspectives in writing. That's what I like about writing, is that you are trying to say something through a story. And how you do that is interesting to me because it's not the same, like writing in terms of like writing a story is not the same as writing a YouTube video. Because in writing a YouTube video, you just say your opinions. Whereas with a story, you're not really so much telling someone your opinions. You're presenting someone with a narrative and trying to get them to draw the correct conclusions from that narrative that you presented to them. And allowing a little bit of variance with someone's perspective in storytelling, I think is very interesting to me. And I just also like with writing the reflection of culture, the way of, yeah, just discussing the world through writing, through telling a story. I find that stuff very interesting. Jackson, can you review fans' videos and say what to improve and what's already good? Would be a good video or live stream idea. It's one of my Patreon tiers that I would review people's content live. I did it once as like an experiment to see how I liked it. It's now one of my Patreon tiers. Not telling you have to pay for it, but it is something that I consider, but I guess I would say I charge for it because it is labor for me to like go over someone's YouTube channel. I also would do it not on stream. Like if someone was in that Patreon tier and they wanted me to just review it privately and just tell them instead of putting them on the screen. Jackson, if you could make anything type of content, it would still get views. What would you do? Ooh, I don't think it would be that different from what I do right now. I feel like if I always knew that I would get views, like magically, no matter what I made, I think I would, instead of covering SpongeBob week to week, I would do one video on all of season 17. I would do one video per season. So I would still talk about SpongeBob, but I probably would mostly review the entirety of shows. But I don't think my content would be that different. I really don't. I probably would cover some other stuff that's a little more niche. I probably would talk a little bit about dramas as well, rather than mostly staying near animation. But it wouldn't be that much different, to be honest. I'm actually very happy with what I do. Although if you go with type of content, I also want to create my own shows, like my own TV show. like an animated show, or I have a couple of different ideas bouncing around. So that is also a thing that I aspire to do. So that kind of fits with your question as well, that I would like to make actual like narrative shows. Like I would like to make a show, and this channel is a way of building an audience and showing like, hey, I I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. People will even say that they'll be like, oh, like you could do it better. I'm like, yeah, I can, and I'll prove it to you. Once I make my own show, I'll prove it to you that I can write a better narrative than modern SpongeBob. Actually, I can very easily. Imagine if Sponge Truce watches one of your streams. That would be the dream. I would love for Sponge Truce to watch my streams. And then his heart will grow 3 sizes and he'll stop using AI. Is it fine if I watch a movie or episode first without thinking critically, just vibing, then rewatching and criticizing? Of course that's okay. I think it's okay to watch stuff without thinking critically. I just think that everything you do watch should be something that you can think critically about. That's more my threshold. You don't need to turn watching TV into a homework assignment because you watch my channel. It's not how I want people to feel. I think that if you're someone who is passionate about analyzing media, and that's like a way for you to like analyze media, is you watch something without thinking critically and then you watch it with thinking critically, that's great. That's a great process. Like clearly the fact that you're even asking me that question means that you care about the things that you watch. So like, I'm sure you're fine. I'm sure you're totally fine. Like at that point, other than adding more meaning to the stories, what do you think is the thing modern SpongeBob can improve on the most? I feel like it's the obvious answer, but it is the art direction. It's too many meme faces. It moves too fast. It doesn't have to be exactly like classic SpongeBob. I get it. Art styles can change. Ways that you approach shows can change. It needs to slow down. It needs to slow down with the faces and the movement. It's got to chill. For anyone who wants to start their own YouTube channel, what equipment would you suggest for beginners? First thing you need is a good mic. Good mic is more important than anything else. Do not spend a ton of money on an expensive 4K camera. Do not start with that. Start with, I use a Rode NT1 and a Rode AI1, I think it's called. I don't know why it's called AI. It's not AI. It has nothing to do with AI, but it's called AI. But it's Rode AI1, I want to say, receiver. That'll set you back just shy of $300. Plus you have to buy an XLR cord. That's a solid mic. You don't even really have to treat a room. Maybe go into a closet if you feel like it. Location is a big part, like what you have. If you want to film yourself, you need a lot of space to film yourself and do it properly. I am using a whole room. I filmed in my bedroom when I was back in California for a good amount of the beginning of this channel, and it was a nightmare. I would rearrange the whole room. It would add an hour and a half to my filming time, rearranging the room to film. It was awful. Now I just sit down and I do it. Well, there's a little bit more of a process, but it's a lot easier than it was. I think showing your face can be better in a lot of ways. I guess it depends. It depends. If you don't want to show your face, it's totally fine. But like you do have to worry about like you are going to connect a little less with your audience if you don't show your face. When it comes to filming yourself, I was a photographer, so I bought a camera for my photography business that was a 4K camera. So I don't know how I would have fit that into my budget if it wasn't already a part of my budget for a different job. Probably would have been a while before when I started this channel, when I was at this point, I would not have used a 4K camera if I didn't already own one. That would have been nuts. The first video wasn't even really in 4K. I filmed it wrong. I filmed it through OBS, so it didn't even come off as 4K because the camera didn't present through 4K through OBS because it was a Canon camera and they don't go through it. There's a separate program. It's a whole thing. But my other ones, like these are like 4K video. There's a little webcam by Elgato that's pretty decent. It's like $160 that you could kind of make work, especially if you do live streaming and you're in a little box. That's what I'm using right now. I'm using a webcam. I'm actually not using my 4K camera to do live streams. I don't use it for any of my live streams because the camera overheats and it burns out and you have to keep resetting. It's a whole thing. Whereas this is designed for live streaming. Who's the most unused main character in the show? SpongeBob? In SpongeBob? SpongeBob himself, man. In modern SpongeBob, SpongeBob himself is just, he just doesn't do anything anymore. He's not even a character. Like, that's like, you know, Patrick's the same, but Patrick was a side character. So like SpongeBob fell farther that SpongeBob doesn't do anything in episodes, you know? Like, it's not good that Patrick doesn't do anything either, but if you could take modern SpongeBob and Patrick Star Show in a new direction that's not just member berries, what would you do? Boring answer, but like if I was put in charge of SpongeBob tomorrow, I would make it more or less like classic SpongeBob. I do say that they don't have to do that. Like, it's okay if SpongeBob wants to change, if it wants to be different. It just has to be good. If I was in charge of SpongeBob, I would make it like classic SpongeBob. And I think that that's kind of a part of like how I am as a person who would be in charge of something, is that, let's say I directed like a Shakespeare play or something. I would be perfectly comfortable if I directed like Romeo and Juliet, if I did it just like the way it's like always done. You know, like I wouldn't need, unless while I was doing it, I noticed something that I could really like change and do differently with like the directing and be like, okay, like that's good. I think with like, if I was put in charge of SpongeBob, I would approach its writing and approach its like direction the same way that the first 3 seasons were approached. I know season 1 is a bit different from 2 and 3, and I'd kind of pull from all of them. From there, from doing it like that, then I can find the things that are my own, if that makes sense. That's probably what I would do if I was put in charge as the showrunner of SpongeBob tomorrow. Do you take Patreon tier suggestions? I do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, check out, I just redid the Patreon. Are you the guy who told me that I should? I think that was the profile picture. I think they had a Clippy profile picture. I don't know if they're you. Thank you for that advice, by the way. I was not giving my Patreon much love, but yeah, I do a whole bunch of, there's a whole bunch of Patreon stuff. That's fun if you want to really support the channel and be a part of it. What's your inspiration for YouTube video creation? I think that, and this is true of any arts, I think that what you should do is you should look at the world and think about something that you would like to be different in the world. And through what you create, express that desire for that thing to be different. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change that thing. You probably won't, but you just have to look at something that you care about, that you think is a problem, and through what you create, address that problem. That's what I do with this channel. I think that movies and TV shows are too shallow these days, or have been too shallow. It's not even a these days thing. It might be a little worse these days, but I think that's people not valuing stories is bad. And through my channel, I point that out. And I think I have changed a lot of people's minds on it. I think or not even changed people's minds, given people that opinion who didn't even think about it that much before. So I think that that's actually generally what you should think about if you're going to make YouTube videos. Look at something in the world that you care about, that you wish was different, and talk about that. That would be the main thing. Do you always recommend using voice commentary in videos, even for people who don't want to reveal their voice? In my videos, I use text on the screen. Yeah, I always recommend voice commentary. I don't think you'll do very well with text on screen. There are some exceptions to this. I don't think you'll do very well, though. I think I don't know your channel. I don't know exactly what it is. There could be exceptions to this, but yeah, no, like you wouldn't get like the numbers that you're seeing on my videos. I don't think videos that, if it was this same video and all the stuff was text on a screen, it just wouldn't happen. It's just, and that's just the reality. You don't want to reveal your voice. Why would you not want to reveal your voice? Do you, like, I guess I could get it. Like, is it and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Not wanting to reveal your voice in a lot of ways, I don't think is a very good reason to not use your own voice in videos. I get that people are complicated. I get that it can be very difficult, especially, but if it's like if it's because of social anxiety, which is super valid and super real and could be a huge problem. And I don't know how difficult it would be to overcome, but the goal would be to overcome that. I don't know how hard that would be for you. I don't live your life, if that even is the reason. You didn't say that it was. I'm just using a hypothetical. Or if you feel like your voice, some people have very thick accents. Some people could have certain speech impediments that could make it difficult. There are a lot of different things. There's a couple of options. There are some people where truly they are not able to speak, like in a YouTube video. I don't know if that's the case with you, but there are people like that. What I say about that, and this goes into the AI argument, is you would have to hire someone to do the voice in order to make it on YouTube. An AI voice is not an option. It just isn't. And I would say that to a person even if they were medically mute. I've said that one of my positions on generative AI is like, there could be a disability-focused reason to have AI voices, but I still think they should have no place in the arts, even on YouTube. And I think that the reason for that is not so much to it's a shame, yeah, sure, for those people who would not be able to speak, who have these sorts of issues that make them unable to speak, that they wouldn't be able to as easily make YouTube videos. I think that not having Sponge Truth's AI voices take over the platform is more important than that. I'm sorry. Hot take, I guess. But I think that it is more important for us as a society to trust that the voices that we hear are coming from real people than it is for a very small amount of people to be able to put out videos without having to hire a voiceover person that would also allow bad actors to flood the world with fake voices. It's a very difficult position to come to, but that is the only way that it falls out. I know that you didn't ask, should I use an AI voice? You said text on the screen, which there's nothing wrong with putting text on the screen. I don't think it's morally wrong to put text on the screen. I just think you're not going to get views if you have text on the screen, unless it's a certain niche. But in general, no, I don't think it'll work for you. For jobs like computer science and such, how do you feel that one must have to use AI even if they don't want to? That's often the case for those jobs nowadays. I mean, if your employer is forcing you to use AI, that's on the employer, not you. You're fine. You got to survive in this economy. I mean, you're not changing the system. They're just going to replace you with another worker in 2 days if you quit over it. Don't take food off your table to make a stand. I would never want to tell someone to do that. There are specific differences. Every situation is different. There could be times where you should take a stand, obviously,